This podcast contains explicit language.
Bafangu!
Houston, flight is go.
Myla, let's go. SPM, safety contact.
From Assignment X, thesoniashow.com, and Amalgamated Storytelling, this is the Dorking Out Show, the podcast for people who love stories from movies, TV, books, podcasts, and everywhere else.
Welcome to episode 126 of Dorking Out. This is the Pretty in Pink edition. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and joining me today for another installment of Sonia and Margo Destroy Your Childhood is one of my favorite people, Margo D, from Book vs. Movie, the Best Neighbors podcast, Fit Bottom Girls, and Not Fade Away. Thanks for coming on the show to talk about Pretty in Pink with me, Margo.
Well, thank you for inviting me back. I love trashing our childhood together.
It's so fun.
There's no one I'd rather do it with. It's great.
I feel the same way about you.
We were supposed to be friends like 30 years ago.
I think
we just had we needed this universe to open up with the internet, with podcasting and all that stuff. That's how we were supposed to meet.
I think that's true. I think it's crazy that you were out here in the Bay Area when I was out here too.
Yes.
We were supposed to meet. I don't know why we didn't meet, but we were supposed to, clearly.
Well, I was living in Northern California. I was going, and in 1986, my parents moved to Danville, which is, I don't know if you know where Danville is, by Walnut Creek.
Yeah, which I lived in Concord. We were right by each other.
We were right by one another, and I saw this movie February 28th, 1986, because I saw it opening night at the Crow Canyon Cinemas in San Ramon, and I remember loving it.
Yes.
I mean, it was a full crowd. People were really pumped. People were really into it. So, yeah, it's like 31 years later, so I'm dying to talk about this with you.
Yeah, I saw it, I believe I saw it at the Regency Cinemas in Pleasant Hill.
Ah.
And I think we should make it clear to people who don't know, like, Pretty in Pink, like, all these John Hughes movies were a big deal when they came out because we only had, like, 4 TV channels, and none of them had TV shows about teenagers. Like, so
there was very little to entertain us.
Yeah, so when, like, a John Hughes movie came out and it was about teenagers, you're like, you know, yes, finally, something that I can relate to. I mean, we didn't have like a My So-Called Life or a Dawson's Creek or even a 90210 back then. You know,
no, we did not.
What did we have? We had like Facts of Life and Head of the Class, right?
And Head of the Class maybe was the cooler one, and that was sort of like starting to fade out. Yeah, that's true. We only had like the major networks. I mean, we had MTV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they didn't have shows or movies yet. It was still just the videos.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a good point. We didn't really like these movies were a big deal.
The only other show I could think of is Doogie Howser. Nobody could relate to that.
Oh, I loved that show.
I did too.
I was
but you
all about
couldn't.
Vinny. His
but
best
it wasn't.
Friend Vinny.
But it wasn't like teenager stuff that you could really relate to. It's like he's a genius.
No. And his parents are really nice and accepting of him. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You're like, oh, that must be nice. So for anyone who doesn't know, Pretty in Pink came out in 1986. It's written by John Hughes, who, of course, did like Weird Science and Ferris Bueller, 16 Candles. And it stars Molly Ringwald. This is her 3rd movie with him. Andrew McCarthy, Jon Cryer, Harry Dean Stanton, Annie Potts, and James Spader in the most James Spader-y role ever. It is about a poor girl who lives literally on the wrong side of the tracks, and she falls in love with a rich boy. And Jon Cryer is her best friend who's also in love with her. And then romantic triangle drama ensues.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. When you saw this movie, did you loved it?
I did super love it. I thought the music was great. I loved the outfits. I already was on board with James Spader and Andrew McCarthy anyway. They were playing much younger. They were both in college movies, I think, before this.
Weird, right? That was in my notes because I think St. Elmo's Fire might have come out like the year before this. And that's in that one, like Andrew McCarthy's graduated from college.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he's back. In,
so I
they're
thought
both
that was weird.
they're both too old. Like James Spader looks like a creepy dude who's still like hanging out at the high school.
Yes.
I mean, he clearly looks like a man. It's so weird.
He's 25.
Yeah, they're too old. They're
Yeah.
not like Stockard Channing and Grease old, but like they're still too old for this role.
Especially because Molly Ringwald herself is only 18.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a weird. So I know when I saw this movie the first time, I did like it, but I remember thinking like, oh, she picked the wrong guy. That's not the ending I wanted for her.
Right.
And then going into the rewatch, I thought, oh, well, this is just going to be another one of those movies where the female lead picks the wrong guy, because that's how I remember it. Kind of like when we talked about Reality Bites. But in this movie,
Right.
I didn't think either of these guys are the right guy for her.
Well, it's another case of like they make the woman, the lead, make a binary choice between two men because God forbid she doesn't pick either of them.
Right.
Or God forbid she just has a date for the prom. Like maybe that's just all she wants is a date for the prom.
Right.
For
Like
one night.
I mean, you could argue like, sure, it's the more realistic ending that she's going to pick Andrew McCarthy's totally boring Blaine at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But it's not, to me, I was like, it's not true love. Like, I bet they'd break up shortly after this.
He's a wimp. She's not going to stay with him.
He's a total wimp.
Yeah. He's cute, but he's wimpy.
Right. The ending would have, and I guess my issue with the movie is rewatching it was, but the movie still thinks like she picked the right guy. Like,
Yeah.
you know? But the movie does nothing to like show me why Andy and Blaine like each other in the first place.
It's very bizarre because we're supposed to suggest, like, from the minute, like, there's always chemistry between them. That's something we're supposed to, detect as an audience. And so we want them to be together. And so when they do finally go on a date and he goes to the record shop and he asks her out and all that shit, we're all squealing like, yay. But, you realize when you watch the movie now, like, they're telling us to feel that way from the very beginning.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's so we're being led in that direction. And it's not ultimately that, I have to say 31 years later. And it's like, I think we're just with the Me Too movement and how we just talk about women nowadays, I think the whole conversation would be really different with her.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing with Jon Cryer for me, whom I love. And I think he's funny and great in this movie. Well, here's another thing I tell you. I think there's like 3 movies going on here.
Yes.
And there's actors in different movies. Like Jon Cryer is in a whole other movie than everybody else. And then Molly Ringwald's in a different movie. And then Harry Dean Stanton, I don't know where he is.
What is he doing in this movie?
What is he doing in this movie? I don't understand. Because he's a great actor, but he's very natural. And he's very low energy. And he must have hated Jon Cryer when they did their scenes together. He must have wanted to punch him in the balls.
Right.
Like, what is all this shtick that you're doing? This is the thing about Ducky, too. Like, he's just all quirks and fashion. And, and it's like there's no real person there. So when she basically says, look, I'm going to go with this guy to the prom, and he has his breakdown, I don't feel sorry for him because he's such a weird stalker to me. And he's not putting out who he really is. He's just constantly putting out an image.
He's like the gay best friend before they had a gay best friend.
Well, that's the thing that Molly Ringwald years later is like, well, this is probably before he came out. He probably still thinks he's a straight dude.
Right.
But I don't know if you ever listened to this podcast. It's called Doug Loves Movies. Doug Benson is a comic.
I know what it is, but I've never listened to it.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of the old school podcasts, and it's a movie podcast. And he had on his show 2 or 3 years ago, he had Harry Dean Stanton as a special guest. So he's like, yes, I don't care what's going on with him. I want him on. So he had 2 comics, Paul F. Tompkins and Jen Kirkman, as special guests. And they were very funny. And Jen Kirkman says to Harry Dean Stanton, hey, Harry, so what do you think of the controversy about Pretty in Pink? And he goes, huh? And she goes, well, in the end, Andy winds up with Blaine, but don't you think she should run around with Ducky? That's what a lot of people feel like. And he looks at her and goes, I don't give a fuck. Like, it was a paycheck to him. Right. Clearly. And to this dying day, he was a very cantankerous old man. He was like an old man in his 30s or something. He's another one of those. He was always old. Yeah. But yeah, there's like a bunch of different movies going on here. I mean, I kind of appreciate that he's talking about wealth and blue collar. I do kind of appreciate, because in the 80s, everybody was supposedly wealthy, and it's nice to, but at the same time, everybody super white. This is like the whitest of the movies. Again, it's white, heteronormative world. And it's like, that's the John Hughes world. That's the world he likes. That's the world he understands. And that's one he wants to talk about. And so there's not a lot of diversity here. And it's a little dated because of that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so weird that you mentioned it's like 3 different movies, like, because Harry Dean Stanton is so natural. And then Jon Cryer is like a cartoon. He's like, he would fit in Pretty in Pink, or in 16 Candles. Like 16 Candles is like ridiculous, like over the top, you know, with like Long Duck Dong and all that stuff.
Weird
like
science.
Ducky would totally fit in on that. But like there's like, a totally different movie. And then James Spader is, what movie? He's in like some weird high school set thriller or something.
Yes.
Like he's in a totally different movie too. So the movie's
you remember
just
Less
like
Than Zero?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he thinks he's in that movie. He's not going to be in that movie for like another year or so, but he thinks he's in that one. Maybe he's prepping for that role by this role, but he looks like a weird coke dealer that kind of shows up in this high school and walks around in a white suit in everybody's classroom. Nobody kicks this guy out. He doesn't look like a high school student. He looks like a total dealer.
He's a 21 Jump Street. He's like, he's clearly an undercover cop, you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how did this guy get past security? It's the same high school, by the way.
Hello, fellow kids. I am also a teenager who likes to party.
All these teenagers who have parents that have no supervision whatsoever.
Yes.
Too. Like they have, I mean, it's just completely over the top. I still think I love James Spader anyway, so I'm on board with it. But yeah, he's in another movie too. Like they're all in different movies.
And Annie Potts is in a different movie. A movie I would love to see, by the way. Yeah,
why are we getting her perspective more?
Okay, the couple of weird things about Annie Potts. First of all, she is adorable in this movie. Adorable. I love her so much. She's like my favorite thing in the movie. But does she not have any friends her own age?
Is she like emotionally stunted?
Yeah.
That she's like 33 and she wants to talk to a teenager all day and like she's like wants to hang out with a ducky. A woman that cute at 33 wouldn't want to spend 5 seconds next to a ducky.
Right.
Much less.
I understand, like, you know, you hang out with your coworkers, but surely she has other friends.
I don't think she does.
That's so weird.
That's a good point.
And
it's very weird.
And she's so fun how she changes her look all the time. And then the end, like, bums me out because she's like, I really like this guy. I'm in love, so I'm going to be normal now. Yep. And I'm like, oh. And I tried to rationalize it this time where I'm like, oh, maybe this is just another costume change and that she'll be herself again next time. But I don't think so. I think we're supposed to think, like, this is the real her now. And
she met the right guy.
Yeah.
So she'll find... So now she has the real identity she's supposed to stick with.
Right. Exactly.
And it's boring. And it's so boring.
It's it's just a bummer.
Yeah.
You know, as someone who, you know, has in her 40s really embraced her, what they call toddler grandma style. That's me with my colored tights and my Oxfords and my pointy glasses or whatever. It kind of bummed me out to see someone be like, oh, now it's time for me to be normal.
And it's like 80s normal, which is just like boo.
Oh, yeah. She's wearing the blazer with the sleeves pushed up. And
the puffy shoulders and all that shit.
Like bolo tie and...
Yeah. I know. And she runs a record shop. Like, have fun with it.
I know. Such a bummer. What do you think of Blaine?
I think Andrew McCarthy is adorable, and I would totally make out with him in a second if I had the opportunity. I'm just going to put that out there. If Mr. McCarthy is listening,
I'm interested.
I'm interested. He's a great travel writer, by the way. He has a couple of books, and he does a lot of travel writing.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
He is. He's a really good writer, and he's a good director. He's directed a bunch of things on Netflix and stuff like that. He successfully has transitioned out of this stage in his life where he was a leading actor and he had to kind of take these dumb parts.
Right.
Because they thought he was going to be the next big thing. I think I loved him at the time, but I remember being very frustrated. Like, I just wish he had more of a spine. Like, what is Andy? He's cute.
Right.
But Andy's hot. Like, seriously, no other guy in that school is like checking her out, or at another school. She works at the record shop. Like, every cool guy should know who she is.
Yes.
There's this hot redhead at the record shop who dresses really cool, and her name is Andy. That girl would have a date every Friday night, forever.
It was hard to believe that this was the first time Andy had been going on a date that would upset Ducky.
Yes. So their whole relationship. Okay, let's dissect this for a second, because this truly disturbed me. Every time I watch it, it bothers me more and more. He is a stalker. Yeah. And he is being encouraged to behave in a way that is destructive for him and for her and the people around them. Mm-hmm. And it's on Twitter a few months ago, there was a woman who said her nephew went up to her, it was like 12 or 13, said, I asked this girl out to the dance, and she said no. And she goes, okay, so what are you going to do? He goes, I guess I'm going to just keep trying. And she's like, no, she told you no.
Yeah, this is Ducky.
Lesson is leave her alone. But the lesson from Ducky is, just keep at it. Yeah. Keep going. You'll wear her down. Yeah. Why do you have to wear somebody down to date you? You don't want that.
This is another example of like romantic comedy behavior that, if applied in real life, would get you a restraining order.
It totally should. But she encourages it because John Hughes writes that into the script.
Right. She doesn't just say like, you need to stop this, and I don't want to have sex with you. Yeah. And that's the thing about the ending too. I'm like, there's no chemistry between them romantically at all. So watching it, like, 15-year-old me was like, she should have chose Ducky. That's the ending that I wanted. But now watching it as an adult, I was like, she thinks of him like a little brother. Like, she's not going to pick him. She's not ever going to pick him.
She doesn't want to kiss him.
And he's
every opportunity. He goes over to her apartment he's in her bedroom all the time, and she never kisses him. Right. That's a big signal.
Yeah. Dude, she's just not that into you. And even I never thought I would say this. I agree with Andrew Dice Clay. Andrew Dice Clay tells him in the movie, he's playing like the bouncer at a club. Like, why do you think she comes to this club all the time when she knows you can't get in? And he's like, and then like, even like Harry Dean Stanton's like, she doesn't like you that way, basically. And he's like, I'm going to keep trying. Like, he's not listening. He's not listening. He's so entitled. Like, he feels like because he loves her, she should love him back. And when she doesn't love him back in the way he wants, he's like, well, now I'm going to ruin our friendship about it. Which
that's so over the top.
Which some people do. I mean, there's when he does go off on her and says like all the things that he says about like how, Blaine, that's not a name, that's a major appliance, and how can you respect yourself? This is like a guy pleading with the girl to make a different choice, and I know that those conversations happen, so it's realistic, I guess, but it's not very likable. It's kind of shitty.
No, it's not good at all. It's very annoying. I think, like I said, he's in a whole other movie. Jon Cryer admits it. He just said like they let him, wing it, as it were. And at the end, like Molly Ringwald was totally irritated by it, but she couldn't say anything. Like that was her co-star, so she had to put up with it. Supposedly, when they filmed the last scene, so they're at the dance, and she and Ducky are supposed to get together. She supposedly had a stomach flu that day, and so she could barely stand on her feet. She was really sick, and so like it wasn't there. And then the audience saw this, and they were like, "No, boo, this is bullshit." So they were like, "Oh, well, let's just put Andrew McCarthy in there." So they put him in a really bad wig. He's already on Broadway doing another play. It's the worst wig ever.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
He looks like a cancer patient.
Yes, because he lost all this weight. Yeah. to do some part on Broadway. So they had to throw him back in at the last minute. And then their whole thing is like they kind of make out. And she wears that terrible dress. That dress is ugly. That dress is hideous.
So one of my questions here was like, so what do you think of the dress? Because I remember in the 80s, I was like, oh, it's so cute. And then I watched it this time and I'm like, no, that dress is terrible. Like,
it's so 80s.
It's like a sack.
Yes.
It doesn't fit her at all.
It doesn't fit her. It doesn't flatter her.
No.
And it does nothing for her. I mean, I get it. They have to put her in
like the top
pink.
is cute, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, but but then the rest, not so
yeah.
much.
No.
Mm-mm.
No, it's not good.
I also thought, so go back to Blaine here. I like Andrew McCarthy a lot, actually. I don't really like him in this movie because they don't give Blaine, like, he is such a pussy. He's just such a pussy. And he's kind of dumb. Like, not even kind of. He's dumb. Like, the whole, like, he picks her up at the record shop and then he's like, do you want to go home and change? You've been watching her all over the school. You know how she dresses. That's how she dresses. You know, what is he thinking? And then he takes her to that gross party with his asshole friends. I'm like, why don't you take her to dinner?
Yeah.
Go to the movies. Why do you take her to a party where you know she's uncomfortable?
Well, she's not invited to. That
Right.
she's not people she's not friends with. And he knows they're going to be like doing drugs and drunk and having sex in all the rooms.
Yeah.
Why do you take that to your first date? I thought the same thing. Like, go to a movie and dinner, just like everybody else does.
And then she, you know, they're like, this sucks. Let's go to the club that I like to go to with my friends. And of course, you know, Ducky's there and he's a huge asshole about it. And I'm like, just go sit at a different table then. Like, you don't even have to sit with your friends. You could just sit. It's just weird. I'm like, bad choice. You know, and once again, the movie never makes it clear why do they like each other at all, other than I guess they both think they're cute. Which, I mean, I guess that's
physical
teenage.
attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what do they talk about?
Physical. What do they have in common? I mean, what are Blaine's goals in life, by the way?
Yeah.
If he's not one of those Richies, you know, if he's not one of those assholes, like, why isn't he one of those assholes? What is he really into? Like, does he have, like, other interests? Like, we never get to know Blaine at all. We don't see his home life. You see him moping around his bedroom at one point, and that's about it. Like, slouching around. He slouches a lot.
Well, he's obviously a computer genius.
Oh, my God, that computer scene.
I'm like, movie computers.
Doing things they couldn't do at the time, by the way.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty, especially a high school computer that he had to share.
He clearly invented instant messaging. He's going to be rich.
She stood us stuck with him.
Yeah. And, you know, and then there's just other stuff like, you know, they go on their horrible first date, but it ends in a kiss. And then she's like talking to her dad about how she's in love.
I actually kind of like the scene with Harry Dean Stanton with her.
Well, it's because I like Harry Dean Stanton so much. I just think it's funny that in this movie and 16 Candles, you've got these scenes where teenage girls are talking to their dad about their love life. And I was like, my dad would never talk to me about my love life.
No.
He would be horrified.
He would have been so uncomfortable. He's like, is your mother up? Let's get your mom.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he would have said. I know. Is that just John Hughes, though? Like, is that him in the part? Like, trying to pretend that he's a great guy? Well, he writes all these parts for a lot of female leads. Is he trying to show that he's, like, you know, a progressive guy?
Right.
And that's why
he's the dad.
Yeah. I don't know. She's not, Andy's, like, very, I like her style.
Yeah.
I like her independence. I like the fact that, you know, and it's very funny, like, all these girls are making fun of her. I'm like, she's, like, way more stylish than y'all.
Yeah.
And she would have a lot more friends for that reason, I would think. I mean, I went to a rich high school, too, out in New Jersey, by the way, not Northern California. And it was filled with kids just like that. And,
right.
But, you know, they had friends that dressed kind of punk or whatever. Like, they didn't put them down. I don't know. It's just odd. You know, she's such the oddball because she's poor.
She's poor, you guys.
She's poor and she dresses funny. You know,
I have to say, like, when I was in high school, there was definitely a separation of, like, these are the like rocker kids, and
Yes.
these are the jock kids. And there was definitely, by the way, my high school had a smoking section. Could you imagine? Like, they would never
Mine
have
did
that
too.
now.
Oh yeah, because they couldn't stop them from smoking, so they
Yeah.
had like a lounge area.
Yeah. There was
yeah,
like a
the teachers
big
do that. Yeah.
outside area for
Yeah.
smokers.
Yeah, same here.
I can't believe it. It's so crazy to think about. But so there was definitely that kind of division in the 80s. But I have to say, like, I don't remember there ever being a division of like rich kid and poor kids, but maybe I didn't go to that kind of school. It's not to say it doesn't exist. It's just not
It's
what
just
I
a weird
encountered.
divide.
Yeah. But also
Yeah, it's
these
weird divide.
these John Hughes movies, like this one and 16 Candles, and maybe later Some Kind of Wonderful, they all have the like wish fulfillment kind of, the popular guy secretly is in love with the nerdy girl thing. Actually, Some Kind of Wonderful doesn't have that so much, but definitely Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles have that. And that's probably why as teenagers, as a teenager, I loved it so much.
Yeah, it's a fun little movie, and for the time, it was great. The music is really good. It goes at a pretty fast clip. All these years later, it rings very hollow.
Yeah.
Just some of the ideas and stuff like that. But it made a lot of money at the time.
Yeah.
And we should say, by the way, it's Howard Deutsch is the director.
Yeah, who also went on to direct Some Kind of Wonderful, which is basically the same exact movie.
Yes.
But with the ducky ending.
Well, he said John Hughes did not like Jon Cryer in the part. He had to kind of take him. And then he also said he just didn't like the last scene when she winds up with Blaine. So he wrote Some Kind of Wonderful to kind of right the wrong of that ship and create the ending that he was. I haven't seen Some Kind of Wonderful in a very long time. Did it hold up for you?
I actually think it really did. And I think that there was just more truth in it for me. It is another movie about high schoolers in which everyone's in their 20s. It's another movie with like with a high school party that I'm like, I never went to a party like that, but I wasn't popular. Maybe parties were like that. I don't know. Did you ever go to a party like that?
I think I went to one party in Ridgewood, New Jersey. That's where I went. And it was a cast party. I was in the theater group, and I got so drunk that they had to drive me home and then prop me against the door. And then my dad, and I got drunk on rum and Coke, which to this day, I can't take the taste of.
Ugh.
It's so disgusting. So I was one time at a party and I remember before I passed out, one girl I knew that was super popular, like literally barfed in front of everybody in the living room. Yeah. And I'm like, this is why I don't go to these things.
Yes.
I can't.
I mean, I remember going to a high school dance with a bunch of friends. We all drank a bunch of peppermint schnapps.
Yes, of course.
Peppermint schnapps. And then I got really sick at the dance and had to call my mother and was like, I have the stomach flu. But I don't think I was fooling her because I clearly smelled like peppermint schnapps.
I thought we were fooling our parents.
Yeah, I
didn't we?
know. I was like, we weren't fooling anybody, but we
No,
thought we
they
were.
knew.
So what I liked about Some Kind of Wonderful, though, is it actually gets like the love triangle right better than Pretty in Pink. Like all three sides of the love triangle. So it's Leah Thompson is Amanda Jones, and she's like one of the most popular girls in the school. And then Eric Stoltz is the like boy that's like in love with her but not popular. And then Mary Stuart Masterson is like his tomboy best friend who's in love with him, but he doesn't seem to notice her. And each of them have their own personalities, and you can see why they like each other. And there's this really, and one of the things I love about it, rewatching it, was Amanda Jones, Leah Thompson's character. She's not just a pretty face. She's the Blaine of this movie in a way, but she's not boring.
Right.
And she has her own intentions and her own arc and her own shit that she's dealing with. And she has this really great scene where she talks about, like, I've kind of gone from boyfriend to boyfriend. I'm afraid of being alone. Like, I would rather be next to someone for the wrong reason than be alone for the right reason. And I was like, that's really smart. And a lot of people can relate to that. You know, and eventually the movie has kind of the happier ending, if you will. Like, of course, like, you know, Eric Stoltz notices that he's in love with Mary Stuart Masterson, and she loves him back. And she's adorable in the movie. She's so cute with her little
she's adorable.
With her little pixie cut, and it's like light on top and dark underneath. So cute. And, you know, they're together, and Leah Thompson's character's like, I'm ready to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm my own person. I don't need a man to be who I am. And I was like, that's awesome.
I remember in that movie, what stands out for me in that movie is spoilers, by the way, we're spoiling for you guys, but she goes on a date with Eric Stoltz finally, and he basically creates the perfect date for her.
Yes.
I'm going to take her to all the things she loves, and I'm going to show her how perfect I think she is. Yes. And she basically calls him on his bullshit. It's like, I'm not that person. That's a thing that you're in love with. You don't know me.
Yeah.
You know? You don't know me as a person.
It's a way better movie than I thought it was going to be. I watched it right after Pretty in Pink, so I really could compare them. And I was like, this movie was surprisingly thoughtful. And there's definitely stuff in it where I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you know, we're going to the museum after closing time, and we've broken into, like, the Hollywood Bowl or whatever. And they're, you know, all this completely ridiculous over the top stuff, but there's like real truth in these things. And I just really, really liked it. It just doesn't have, like, I guess, like the soundtrack and the flash and like the over the top performances that Pretty in Pink has. So I don't think people talk about it as much, but it's basically the same movie. It's just a little smarter, I think.
I think so too, and I think Pretty in Pink came along first, and so it kind of gets all the attention.
Yeah.
And it was one of those movies, like, when it came out on video, forget it. Like, trying to get that video forever. Oh my god!
It was always rented
for it. Yeah, it always was rented. So yeah, I mean, it was a perfect little movie for the time. It doesn't age. It's on, as of last time I checked, it was on Amazon Prime free.
Yeah.
And did you hear about Alexa Kennan, by the way? She plays Jenna, her best friend.
Oh yeah.
She plays her best friend. It's like, I love that scene. It's like, I hope they fall off and fall off your chest. What did she say? Like, I hope they
shrivel up and fall off.
Fall off your chest. Her breasts, ma'am. You know, and the mannish gym teacher that gets all upset about it and stuff like that. So Alexa Kennan died a few months before the movie came out, and it was very mysterious because, like, her parents wouldn't say what happened to her, but it was probably drugs. Yeah. But she did a bunch of stuff before this too. She was in Little Angels. Is that Little Darlings?
Little Darlings.
Oh my God, she was so good in that. Margaret Collin is in this movie. I always forget that Margaret Collin. Oh my God.
There's
trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
The teacher.
Yeah, but failing miserably.
Yes.
What's your favorite John Hughes movie? Is it Curly Sue or Baby's Day Out?
That's a tough choice. You know what? I really like Home Alone, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's not a perfect movie, but especially around the holidays, I love that stupid movie. I've watched it over and over again. And then I told you I have a very weird fondness for Uncle Buck,
yes,
which is a very flawed picture. There's entire scenes that do not belong or don't make any sense. Like, it's like, just let John Candy make pancakes. And it's like, they'll be big pancakes. So, but I kind of have a weird, he's very hit or miss, but he took chances and he got weird sometimes.
I think that your affection for Uncle Buck probably has so much to do with John Candy, because I have so much affection for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes.
Which, probably, I think it might be his best movie. I'm like, it's not necessarily the one I watched the most, though, so I don't know if I could say it was my favorite, but I think it might be the best, and I think it has to do with so much with John Candy. Like, he
was a great actor.
He was so great, and like you just feel for him so much in that movie, and I think that's true in Uncle Buck too. Like, you like John Candy so much in that movie that, like, no matter what happens, you're like, I'm with you. I got you, John Candy. I'm into it.
I'm into it. I don't know why. I mean, I know I shouldn't be, but that Buck Melanoma, Molly Russellsport. I mean, I love that shit. I could watch it all day. I could watch it all freaking day. But anyway, that's Uncle Buck. I think I like Home Alone. I like the first National Lampoon Vacation movie very much. I think that's weird and really fun. He has, like, do you remember She's Having a Baby? Well, we'll do a John Hughes episode one day. But yeah, especially there was a while where, like, he was constantly putting movies out.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden he just stopped.
Yeah, I would like to revisit She's Having a Baby, because I have a feeling I might like it more now than I did at the time.
It was a real downer of a movie. I remember that. I remember thinking, like, shouldn't this be funny? Aren't we supposed to be laughing? Like, what is going on here? I'm so uncomfortable and unhappy for these people.
Yeah, it's a very weird movie. But maybe it's because with John Hughes, you have these expectations. And then if you kind of remove the John Hughes factor, maybe it holds up better. I don't know. I need to revisit. How cute do you think Christy Swanson is at the end of Pretty in Pink?
Oh, I think she's so adorable. And she was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So that's how she got picked. She had a scene in there. So, and I think she's just completely adorable. And I'm glad they have that. Like, they gave Ducky a girl to, like, dance with. Like, good. Like, give him somebody else to focus on.
She is so, so cute.
She's adorable. She's very cute.
And I just want to say again how much I love Annie Potts in this movie. And I wrote down, like, some of the things she said, because I was like, she should be in her own movie. Like, I think this came out like 2 years after Ghostbusters, you know, and
a couple years after.
Yeah. And she's so, so funny in Ghostbusters. I love it. And I love when she like answers the phone at the record store and she's like, Trax, what do you want? or when Andy thinks she's been stood up by Andrew McCarthy and Annie Potts tells her, don't waste good lip gloss.
Which is good advice.
Very good advice. And I love when she's like, I used to have a great butt. I wish I had photographs. And I was like, been there, girl. I know. I get it.
Yeah. She makes that material work.
It's so good. You know, there's, I made a list of some of the other movies that came out that year.
Oh, please.
So this is like these are the top 10 movies of 1986. So it was Top Gun.
Oh my God.
Crocodile Dundee, Platoon, Karate Kid 2, Star Trek 4, Back to School, one of your favorites.
One of my favorites.
Aliens, one of my favorites. I saw that movie like 18 times in the theater. The Golden Child, not very good, that one. Yeah.
Terrible movie.
8th most popular movie that year. Ruthless People, and then Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh my God, what a list.
Right?
What a time capsule that all. I think The Golden Child was like Eddie Murphy's first big flop, if I can remember.
Wasn't it? I think was it after, so it was after Beverly Hills Cop and.
Yes.
And he'd made 48 Hours, obviously. I don't remember if there was something between Golden Child and Beverly Hills Cop, but Golden Child is terrible.
Oh, it's so not funny. It's so not funny. And that's the only reason to watch an Eddie Murphy movie is I just want to laugh.
Yeah. And then I went through 1986 movies and tried to find what other movies were out about teenagers. And other than Ferris Bueller, there's actually some good ones in here. Stand By Me came out in 86. Space Camp.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's a good movie.
This is a good one, too. River's Edge.
That's a very good movie.
Another one of our favorites, One Crazy Summer.
Yep.
I don't remember if they're teenagers, though. Are they teenagers? They're teenagers.
They're basically, they're like 19.
Yeah. Lucas came out. Manhattan Project. The the horror movie Deadly Friend. And
that's a good one.
did you ever see The Boy Who Could Fly?
What does that sound familiar? Who's in that?
I'm trying to remember their names, but I just remember loving it so much. I'm going to look it up right now so I can tell you who's in it. I just remember loving it, The Boy Who Could Fly. I don't think it's anyone like super famous.
Is he the kid that's in a wheelchair?
No, it's Lucy Deakins and Jay Underwood. And then it's got
that
like,
sounds familiar.
I think if you saw a clip of it, you would be like, oh yeah. He's like a really quiet boy who thinks he can fly.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't remember it, but I'm sure if I saw a clip of it, like, oh, yeah, that movie.
Yes.
It might have been on, and it would have been one of those movies that was on like a few years later. It would be on TBS on a loop.
All the
like
time.
Just play all the time. Like Lucas was played all the time. Yeah.
I also tried to think of, like, are there any recent movies that are like John Hughes-esque? And I haven't seen like Perks of Being a Wallflower or Edge of 17. I don't know if those are, but I had this year, I saw Love, Simon. Did you see Love, Simon?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
It is very John Hughes-esque, and I mean that as a compliment, not in a like, oh, it's got a shitty ending way. It's a good movie. Like, it's a good movie, but it deals with like real like teenage things. It's very sweet. It's a good one. And then the only other one I could think of was maybe Superbad.
Oh yeah, Superbad. That's a good movie.
I really like Superbad a lot.
No, that's a good movie. Yeah, it was totally marketed to teens, white teens, but
yes.
teens, rich white teens. Like
yes.
That's who was supposed to like be on board with this. But it felt like an MTV movie. They had like the soundtrack going on over, the loud music going on in between the scenes and stuff like that. And, it looks really, is it supposed to take place in California or is it supposed to be in Illinois?
Are you talking about Pretty in Pink?
Yeah, Pretty in Pink.
Yeah, I think it is in Illinois.
Because it was filmed in California.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever say, actually.
Gina Gershon is in this movie, by the way.
I know! That's another one. Like, such a little scene. Gina Gershon, Christy Swanson.
Yeah.
All these little guest spots before they were big. Yeah, it was... I was kind of surprised when I rewatched it. It's very watchable.
It is.
So we're going to have to do more John Hughes podcasts, and I definitely think we need to talk about St. Elmo's Fire sometime.
I would love to talk about St. Elmo's Fire because that movie is such a garbage fire.
In another installment of our Sonia and Margo Destroy Your Childhood, it's time to take on St. Elmo's Fire.
I would totally be on board with that.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do another John Hughes because there's just too many.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah. So, Margo, do you have anything else you want to say about Pretty in Pink?
I'm trying to look at my notes. Is there's anything else I wanted to mention? I think I got in. Oh, the song that Ducky dances to.
Oh, yeah.
It was supposed to be State of Shock, which is Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson. And it's like, if you guys don't know what that is, Google it. It is the worst, most annoying song ever.
Well, and like, it wouldn't even play to the story. Like,
no, it doesn't.
It's so weird.
Yeah, but then at the last minute, they got Try a Little Tenderness.
Which at least kind of ties in.
Oh, yeah, of course, because it's a pleading kind of romantic song. It makes sense. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
This is off topic, but you saw The Cable Guy, right?
Of course.
There's a scene where Jim Carrey is doing like karaoke and he's singing Somebody to Love, the one from Jefferson Airplane. And apparently it was originally supposed to be Bust a Move. And I was like, what? Why would it be Bust a Move? Like I'm like, that doesn't tell you anything about him other than, maybe he likes Young MC. Whereas the other song tells you something about him. It means something to the movie. It's so funny to me that at first it was going to be Bust a Move. I'm like,
oh, isn't that funny when you find these things out, though?
I know.
Like, it would have been a totally different scene.
Absolutely. So, Margo, where can people find you?
So the best thing to do to find me, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I mean, follow me at Brooklyn Fit Chick on social media, especially on Twitter and Instagram. And I post all the shows that I work on. I post the links there and stuff like that. And so once again, that's Brooklyn Fit Chick, and my other shows are the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, Best Neighbors podcast, Not Fade Away podcast, and Book versus Movie. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course, it's like my favorite when you come on. And I'm going to listen to your Book versus Movie today because you're talking about Castle Rock, and I am caught up, so now I can listen.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm really into it because it's spooky, but it's not gross. I'm into it.
Yeah, it's a really good show. Yeah, Dina from Twisted Philly and I talk about it, and so we're doing a recap of the first half of the seasons, the first 5 episodes. So yeah, tell me what you think.
Do you guys do you explain like any of the like Easter eggs and things like that? Because as I told you in text, like I'm actually not like a Stephen King super fan, but you know, I've seen the movies, but like I haven't read all the books and things like that. And I have a feeling there's a lot in the show that I'm not getting, but I like the show even without those things.
Well, that's a compliment to the show and like how good the writing is.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to know anything about Stephen King. You have to be a fan of Shawshank or anything, and you could totally be into this.
Yeah. Because, I don't know jack about it. Well, this was super fun. Thank you for listening, everybody. You can find Dorking Out at dorkingoutshow.com. You can follow us on Twitter at dorkingoutshow. You could follow me at The Sonia Show. I tweet a lot about movies and TV and a lot about politics because I've got a lot to say about that, apparently. And I think Smith is going to be back next week because I think we're going to talk about Happy Time Murders. So that will be something. That'll be an adventure.
Ooh.
And I'll just say goodbye. Thank you, Margo.
Thank you so much.